Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and finally, class is in session for 205 Live and NXT. This is Graded, where I look at each show segment by segment, break it down a little bit for you, and award each little bit its own mark accordingly. Now, it's important to note that this is my own opinion. Sometimes we are going to get along, sometimes you're just going to want to comment below telling me how much of a dick I am, but hey, that's what the internet's for, right? I also think it's pretty fair to say that I have the cushiest job when it comes to Graded, because NXT and 205 Live are probably the two strongest shows that WWE are producing right now, and both have an incredible level of performance and talent. So without any further ado, I've got my framed picture of King Diamond, I've had a couple of beverages, let's get going. Roll the intro. So we're going to kick things off with 205 Live if my tie hadn't already given that one away. Yeah, I wear ties and t-shirts, just like Avril Lavigne. That's how you know that I'm the cool teacher. Deal with it. The show opens with a recap package, and it's got a fair bit in it, so I'm just going to refer to my notes here. Drake Maverick goes over Buddy Murphy's huge victory in front of his hometown crowd. Mike and Maria Kanellis arrive on 205 Live, interrupting Lio Rush's open challenge match against Lince Dorado last week. And Tony Nese picked up an upset victory over Cedric Alexander in last week's main event. But Cedric has a chance to restore himself and get over the sort of mini losing streak that he's been on in tonight's main event. And that main event is a fatal five-way match between him, Tony Nese, TJP, Gran Metalik, who's out to put TJP in his place after he stole Kalisto's mask, the naughty little rascal, and Lio Rush, so far undefeated in 205 Live. So let's get cracking. The first matchup tonight is Drew Gulak with Jack Gallagher versus Akira Tozawa. In the run-up to this match, we saw a little recap of what happened 2 weeks ago when Gallagher and Gulak turned on Kendrick with the lovely little PowerPoint presentation. And in terms of this match tonight, Akira Tozawa is out to get Gulak because he attacked Itami, but it doesn't quite make full sense because Itami rejected Tozawa back in April. But, you know, it's a reason to fight, and I guess that's Wrestling 101. We kick things off in the match with a little bit of back and forth between Gulak and the crowd. They're chanting, he keeps telling them not to, because he wants a better 205 Live, and chanting is not a part of a better 205 Live, but Akira Tozawa keeps getting the crowd to chant. The pair exchange a few holds, and Tozawa is really hot on the reversals whenever Gulak's trying to up the ante. There's a nice little segment where the pair are exchanging chops, but everything Gulak does to Tozawa just seems to make him hulk up that little bit more. Eventually, Tozawa goes to raise his hand and chop Gulak's chest. Gulak cowers away, and Tozawa just bops him on the nose with a little punch. Just as an aside, Tozawa's selling throughout this match, especially the backbreaker, pretty much every submission he's held in during the course of it. It's just fantastic. Like, the screams just seem so convincing. He seems like he's in so much pain. Eventually, Gulak gets Tozawa in the gory special, and Tozawa's able to just sort of roll his body up Gulak's back somehow in a really impressive manner. It just looked fantastic. He manages to reverse it and gets back on the front foot. Gulak then manages to take Tozawa down to the mat into a headlock, and he just starts biting his ear, Mike Tyson style. Tozawa is sort of really in a lot of pain here, but he manages to persevere through it, gets back onto his feet, and delivers a series of kicks that just take Gulak straight back down. Tozawa then hits a missile drop kick, a shining wizard, and a suicide dive, proving that he's just a human Red Bull. Tozawa tries to take it to the high rent district, but he's tripped by Gallagher, falls flat, he wins by DQ, and then Gallagher and Gulak start beating him down. But just as the crowd start to fade away and cry at the absolute horrors that are happening in the ring, out comes Brian Kendrick. He locks in the captain's hook, the heels narrowly escape and manage to shuffle away. I'm going to give this one a B+. We then go backstage for a few segments. They're all a little bit too short to grade, so I'm just going to sort of give you a rundown of it. So when we go backstage, Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese are with Drake Maverick. Murphy forgives Maverick for the weigh-in that kept him away from 205 Live for so long, but he goes on to tout Tony Nese as the only other man to pin Cedric Alexander in 2018. The pair then go on to put the locker room on notice, and they say from now on, everything goes through us. We then go to Maria and Mike Kanellis, who have absolutely no qualms or worries over what they did to Lince Dorado last week. They were just capitalizing on their invitation to 205 Live. They apparently have a plan, and that plan includes the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Mike then tells us we're looking at the new power couple of 205 Live. And also, Mike and Lince will go one-on-one next week. We then go to another backstage segment with Hideo Itami looking moody AF as he speaks to us in Japanese. He eventually goes on to say that Mustafa Ali should have walked away, and in their Falls Count Anywhere match, he's going to end Ali's career. We then cut to Mustafa Ali. He's outside, it's raining, and everything's got that sort of horrible, unsettling green tint like a David Fincher movie. Ali says that he and Itami have been on this path for too long, and the path is going to change. This new path that they're on is a straight line, and it means that Itami can't ever get away from Mustafa Ali. Wherever he goes, he'll be there in front of him or right behind him, and this is obviously just a very big metaphor for their Falls Count Anywhere match. Ali always delivers so big on promo work, and I loved that Itami was allowed to speak Japanese. I love it when foreign talent's allowed to speak their own language. This promo is probably one of the best that I've seen all year. The pair go head to head next week in their Falls Count Anywhere match, and because the promo was so good, I'm going to have to give it a grade, and that grade is a big fat A. And next up, and finally for 205 Live, we have that massive fatal 5-way match, which includes, so I don't get it wrong, TJP versus Gran Metalik versus Lio Rush versus Tony Nese versus Cedric Alexander. TJP arrives to the ring with Kalisto's torn mask, and he's obviously the first one as soon as the bell goes to go straight for Gran Metalik and take him out to the outside. Rush and Alexander have a fantastically quick exchange. I'm talking Osprey Ricochet levels, more of this please. Rush then starts to taunt Alexander, peels off to the outside, Alexander follows, Rush ducks out of the way, Alexander goes headfirst into Tony Nese and he gets taken out. Rush gets some solid showcase time here. He pretty much works with everybody. They are obviously pushing the whole, undefeated and also look at how good he is for such a young age aspect of the character. One spot that I absolutely loved was TJP got this sort of weird double submission going on while he's peeling away at Gran Metalik's mask. Tony Nese then sneaks up from behind, pushes the other two guys away, Germans TJP over into sort of a half. He sort of stood up, but he could lean back and do the victory roll, grabs Lio Rush, Germans him, and hits a double pin. Metalik didn't really seem to be bringing his all to the table on this one, which is a bit of a shame, but there was one fantastic moment where TJP baseball slid out the ring to get out of the way of Metalik, who was going to come off the top rope forwards. Metalik then just goes backwards with a moonsault and nails TJP. Eventually, Nese picked up the victory, and obviously Rush was probably the most over guy in the match, but for me, the real standout was Tony Nese. The sheer amount of athleticism on show was unreal. It was a totally deserved victory. Nese picks up his second win over Alexander. Alexander's losing streak continues, and it's getting an A. So all in all, 205 Live this week was an incredibly solid show. There was a main event that really left me confused at points as to where it was going to go, who was going to pick up the win, and that hype package for Ali versus Itami was just unreal. So for those reasons, I'm going to give 205 Live this week an A, and I just really can't wait for next week, to be honest. Now on to NXT. Oh, that's right, the ties change colour. So cool, so teacher. So for NXT this week, we have a double main event, War Raiders versus the Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team Championships, and Nikki Cross and Bianca Belair go one-on-one. And how do you start a night like this? Well, you start it with War Raiders versus the Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team Championships. What a beginning. War Raiders get the crowd suitably pumped up by going, war, war, war. But then the Undisputed Era's music hits, everybody loses their minds. Undisputed Era tonight are represented by Roddy Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, and there was a lovely moment where they both got up on the turnbuckles during their entrance and turned to each other and went, boom. That was so good. So we kick things off. War Raiders managed to divide and conquer the Undisputed Era pretty quickly just by using brute force. There's a great little spot when it's Rowe and O'Reilly in the ring. O'Reilly goes to get some sort of leg lock on Rowe. Rowe just sort of stands there, looks down at him really intimidating like, and just sort of picks him up off his leg, just peels him off and slams him into the mat. Roddy manages to sneakily take out Rowe's left leg, and then the destruction of Rowe starts. They keep him very separate and away from Hansen, and they just taunt Hansen constantly, letting Rowe get a little bit closer each time and just pulling him back. They're just going for that leg, and there's nothing that's going to stop them. The beatdown just continues and continues as they're just grinding away on Rowe. Then Hansen gets the hot tag, and the dynamic shifts back to how we started. Hansen just destroys both members of the Undisputed Era. As it looks like Hansen's got the upper hand and both members of the Undisputed Era are down, out comes Adam Cole to try and interfere, and Hansen just punches him in the face. That's it, just straight back out the ring, and that's that. War Machine continue to just decimate and decimate until the tide slowly turns back to Undisputed Era when they pick themselves up. Eventually, War Raiders prove to be a little bit too much, and it looks like they're about to take it when the cameras start to shuffle away into nice tight shots and the crowd goes crazy so you know somebody's coming down the ramp. It's Bobby Fish. He's back and he's nailing them with a chair. War Raiders win by DQ. Bobby Fish is back. Undisputed Era stand tall, crowd goes wild. I don't think there's anything I can really do with this match other than give it an A. It was incredible from the get-go. The difference between submission-based wrestling, strike-based wrestling, and just War Raiders just destroying everything in their sight, and then the return of Fish. It's an A. It's an A. We then go to a short backstage segment, which is too short to grade. It's a little bit creepy and a little bit weird. Nikki Cross is on all fours, just sort of looking at papers and ripping them up and throwing them away, and she keeps saying, I know, I know. We then go down to the ring for Shayna Baszler versus Britt Baker. Baszler wastes absolutely no time getting into it. She just goes straight after Baker's shoulder. She grabs it tightly, starts torquing it, really going mad with it, and then just starts rolling it round before she traps the fingers under the boot, pulls out her hairband, and just stomps on Baker's shoulder, and it looks disgusting. The referee then calls a stoppage to the match. Baker is crying her eyes out, screaming in pain. Baszler is just sat there sadistically smiling. She runs up to her as she's being helped up by the referee and just nails her one more time with a massive kick. I think this does wonders for Shayna, making her out to be this huge monster with little regard for anybody else's safety. She doesn't care what she has to do to get things done. She just wants to get things done. And it's been fantastic to see this sort of character development, especially when there was so much negativity around Shayna for some reason when she came in. I guess because of the MMA background, but I'm just really happy that she sort of solidified as this monster, absolute beast. I'm going to give this one a B+. I feel like it could have been a little bit longer, but it did exactly what it needed to do. Shayna looks like an absolute monster, probably the biggest, baddest person in the NXT universe. Britt Baker got featured alongside her, so that'll lead to probably a rematch at some point when Baker's a little bit more established. It ticked all the boxes, really. We then go backstage to another segment that's a bit too small to grade. It's just William Regal in his office with somebody off camera going, "What are you going to do, William? What are you going to do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to have a word with Nikki Cross after her match tonight because she knows something and she's not telling me." That was it. Now on to the penultimate match for this episode of NXT. It is Bing and Rocky versus Lorcan and Burch. So for those uninitiated with Bing and Rocky, Bing started out in the Inoki Genome Federation way back in 2013. He was there for 3 years, and then he was part of the WWE Chinese signings. He came over in 2016 to the Performance Center. He was in the Dusty Rhodes Classic in 2016 with Ho Ho Lun, and he was in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 33. Rocky is a former actor from Shanghai, and he reported to NXT in 2016, and I might be wrong. He's been working the house show circuit a lot, but I might be wrong, but I think that this is his TV debut. Commentary makes it very clear that Lorcan and Burch are out to prove themselves in this one. They want to prove themselves worthy of the NXT Tag Team Championships once more. There's not really much to say about this one. Bing and Rocky isolate Lorcan, trying to break him down with some holds. Lorcan then breaks free. In comes Burch and demolition begins. Lorcan and Burch hit the implant DDT. 1, 2, 3. I get that, you're gonna have to feed some teams to Lorcan and Burch to get them back up the ladder a bit, but it just felt a bit hollow. I'm gonna have to give this one a C+. I think it was the weakest match on the show. And finally, our main event, Bianca Belair versus Nikki Cross. So a few weeks ago, the pair went to a double count-out draw that got a bit wild and off the chain, and then you partner that with the fact that Belair is currently undefeated in singles competition, and the fact that Nikki's holding a secret from William Regal and the NXT locker room, and the hype going into this one is pretty high. Nikki gets straight on the offensive as she does, and it quickly spills out the ring. Bianca Belair is somehow leaving glitter everywhere, making a right mess of the ring. Also, fun fact courtesy of Nigel McGuinness, Bianca Belair's great-grandfather was apparently the first African-American electrician in North Carolina. Cheers, Nige. Belair is able to sort of slow things down and the mat game starts with Nikki, but it doesn't last very long. Nikki gets back on the offensive and the pair just start going at it back and forth. Nikki hoists Belair up into a tree of woe spot, nothing fancy, nothing over the top, just aggressive stomps, and then she peels her off and hits her with a running bulldog. Just perfect character work, basically. Eventually, Belair manages to lift Nikki up into a picture-perfect sit-out powerbomb, the Belair bomb. Nikki kicks out at 2.9. Bianca then tries to go to the top rope. Nikki counters it with a superplex, and the lights go out. And when they come back up, who's sat in the ring but Aleister Black? Belair seems to have disappeared. Black is staring down Nikki Cross, and the crowd starts chanting, "Nikki's got a secret." Nikki starts crawling toward Black as if she's in some sort of trance, and then Black growls in her face, "Tell me." Nikki crawls forward, whispers in his ear, peels off, and Black starts visibly shaking with anger. His face is bright red, he's seething, there's spit, he's aggressive. The show ends with the final shot being Aleister Black fully stood up, shaking with anger. I'm gonna have to give this one an A because Cross and Belair work so well together. I just want to see this continue and continue and continue, and I don't think anybody is gonna say no to a blow-off match between the pair. And then you partner this with the return of Aleister Black, and I think that this might be one of my favorite NXT moments of recent memory. So what do I give this week's NXT? I give it an A-. I can't wait to see where the Black storyline goes. I can't wait to see War Raiders get their revenge. I can't wait to see a definitive winner between Nikki Cross and Bianca Belair. But I feel that the show was let down just a little bit by the Burch Lorcan Bing Rocky match. So that's it for Graded. Class is over. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.